Good afternoon. My name is Zach Stevenson. I represent Anoka and Coon Rapids in the Minnesota House, and I'm the DFL chair of the Ways and Means Committee in the House. About 6 months ago, the United States Surgeon General called for social media platforms to have warning labels similar to those required on cigarette packs. Today, Senator Mann and I are here to discuss our legislation to implement the Surgeon General's recommendation in Minnesota. Our bill also requires social media to have pop-up notifications every 30 minutes informing the user the total time they've spent on the platform. The evidence is clear. Social media has a significant negative impact on mental health, particularly among kids. 95% of youth ages 13 to 17 report using a social media platform, with more than a third saying they use social media almost constantly. Gallup found that the average teenager spends 4.8 hours every day interacting with various social media platforms. This is not an accident or happenstance. Big tech does everything they can do to get people to spend as much time as possible engaged with their platforms. It's how they make money. Several studies have found links between excessive social media use and poor mental health outcomes, including loneliness, depression, anxiety, sleep disruption, memory loss, eating disorders, self-harm, and even suicidal ideation. Public policy is failing Minnesota parents and kids because there's almost no guardrails on social media companies. I think future Minnesotans will look back on this time the same way we look back today on the 50s and 60s and the big tobacco companies. We ask, how on earth did they allow cigarette smoking on airplanes? They will ask, how on earth did they allow teenagers to spend 5 hours a day on TikTok? Minnesota has been a leader in regulating social media. In the last few years, we've banned deepfakes, we've regulated child influencers, and required social media companies to disclose statistics on platform use and whether big tech companies are conducting product experiments on children. More meaningful protections have been blocked by big tech companies, but we are not deterred. Tomorrow, the House Commerce Committee will hold a hearing on this bill. Meanwhile, the Attorney General, Keith Ellison's office, has released a groundbreaking report, which I encourage folks to read, that documents the harmful impact of social media on kids, and the report also makes policy recommendations. And we'll be working with the Attorney General's office to turn those policy recommendations into additional legislation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Mann.
Hi everybody, I'm Senator Mann. I represent Senate District 50, Edina and Bloomington. So we are here today as we join the previous Attorney General of the United States and Attorney Generals from 42 different states and U.S. territories who called on Congress to require warning labels on social media platforms. And as usual, when Congress does not act, we do. There is a lot that we know about social media and their nefarious algorithms, how they target their audiences, how they lead to compulsive behavior, how the risk of anxiety and depression doubles when teens consume more than 3 hours of social media per day. The rates of suicide for Generation Z girls is higher than any generation in recorded history and is still rising. Sextortion, cyberbullying, social isolation, the list goes on. First and foremost, electronics are a privilege, not a right, and I encourage parents out there, myself included, to set limits. This is an adult-created problem, and we cannot sit back and do nothing while our children pay the price. However, it cannot be solely up to parents to solve this crisis. We as a society have to step up. So aside from what we can do at home, evidence from tobacco studies show that warning labels can increase awareness and change behavior. This bill, coupled with Senate File 508 to get cell phones out of the classrooms, are a bare minimum that we can do to make sure that we are contributing to the bright future of our children. Thank you.
We're now going to hear from two parents who will share their stories, starting with Bridget Noring.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Bridget Noring. I am a wife, mother, and grandmother. I am also the founder of the Devin J. Noring Foundation. April 4th will mark 5 years since I lost my son Devin Noring to fentanyl poisoning. He had been suffering from blackout migraines and dental pain, and it's our belief that he was desperate to relieve that pain and went on to Snapchat, where he was connected with a dealer who sold him what Devin believed was a Percocet, but that Percocet turned out to be 100% fake, and it was contained fentanyl in it. The morning after Devin and an acquaintance connected with a drug dealer on Snapchat, he was found unresponsive by my youngest son. And I made a promise to Devin that day that I would do something, and this is me standing before you doing something and honoring that promise. That pill that Devin took contained enough fentanyl to kill multiple people. I now know that social media platforms are one of the primary sources from which teens buy all types of drugs, with the majority containing fentanyl. Sorry. Goodness. According to the National Crime Prevention Council, 80% of fentanyl poisoning-related deaths of teens and young adults are estimated to be attributed to social media apps. Snapchat in particular and several other social media platforms have, in my opinion, become the largest open-air drug markets out there. The allure of disappearing messages that suck our children in on apps like Snapchat are a drug dealer's paradise, since it makes it nearly impossible for law enforcement to track them down, and that is unacceptable. It's critical that we address social media platforms that facilitate drug peddling to children, the constant pushing of harmful algorithms that lead to eating disorders and suicide, bullying, sexual exploitation, and the list of harms goes on. These same platforms which make these connections as a matter of design to profit off of our children, and we cannot say we're protecting our children until we pass this fact and pass legislation to stop it. And that's why my family is grateful to Senator Mann and Representative Stevenson for introducing this vital piece of legislation, because we know as parents who suffered the loss of a child, the firsthand dangers occurring every day on these apps. We know that there are lobbyists like NetChoice out there misleading the public to believe that these bills would hamper our First Amendment speech rights. Shame on them. They know that these bills do nothing of the sort, and they will spend millions of dollars every year making sure that bills like this are never passed. In my opinion, they're scared, and rightfully so, they should be. Up until recently, none of these social media companies had the mass amounts of parents whose children have been harmed or killed banding together, demanding change. And I can assure you, I can promise you, that we'll never stop demanding change until change is made and our children are protected. One of the easiest changes we can make is by having social media companies post the warning labels for its users and parents. Former U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy called for warning labels to be placed on social media platforms just last year. Like tobacco, alcohol, and prescription medications, these labels would alert parents, teens, and young adults about the potential mental health issues and the harms that may occur. And what is honestly so wrong with warning them about what they are at risk of being exposed to? As a parent who now advocates and will continue to advocate for social media reform, I urge other parents to pay attention and have these vital conversations with their children. Talk openly about the dangers that exist on social media, because we're completely oblivious until Devin died and meeting countless families just how harmful these apps are. To our lawmakers, again, thank you, Senator Mann, Representative Stevenson, for introducing this key piece of legislation. I implore all of our senators and House representatives to put our children first, way beyond the reach of big tech. Enough is enough. Not one more child should be harmed or killed because of their social media's inept policies that they themselves don't even abide by. Devin should be here today. If this law had been in place, had he seen a warning, maybe he would have thought twice. Maybe, and just maybe, he would still be alive. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have Tabitha Urbanski.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. My name is Tabitha Urbanski, and I lost my 17-year-old son, Seth, on October 26, 2022, to fentanyl poisoning. Seth had been out of rehab for 3 weeks, and he was doing very well. He was planning for his future and actively participating in a program to learn construction skills and obtain his high school diploma. We had been making plans for his upcoming 18th birthday celebration, and he was excited about his future and the possibilities that lay ahead. The day before Seth died, he left his program early to buy Percocet after a dealer connected with him on Snapchat. He unknowingly received fentanyl instead. After going home, he went down to his room to lay down like any other teenager. I texted him several times about dinner, his day, and said goodnight. assuming he was sleeping and needed some space. He was home, so I felt like he was safe, and we didn't know that he was struggling with his addiction that day. But I didn't hear back from him, not because he was sleeping, but because he was already gone. I would not find this out until the following morning when I went to wake him up for his program. At 7:38 a.m., I found my beautiful son sitting at the end of his bed, dead. Small blue pieces of pills were still visible on his lips, but he was gone. There was no Narcan, no CPR, no medical interventions that could bring him back to me. He was just completely gone. I have to live with that picture of my baby boy in my mind for the rest of my life. His autopsy showed that none of the pills even made it to his stomach. The concentration of the fentanyl was so strong it was 3 times the lethal dose. He never had a chance. We went from planning his 18th birthday to planning his funeral. My son battled his addiction for over 3 years, and most purchases were done via Snapchat. Seth once told me that phones were basically obsolete. Dealers were too paranoid. He said they used Snapchat to sell because they didn't have to worry about being caught. Social media not only fueled his depression and anxiety, but it also played a critical role in his death. So I stand here before you today to ask you to all pass HL 1289, or introduce it, sorry, and to hold social media accountable for the damage their platforms are causing to our most vulnerable, our children. I stand here for my family, my son, and for all the other families that should be planning futures and not funerals. Children should be able to learn from their mistakes and not die from them, and eliminating easy access to drug dealers is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also have Eric Mischie from the SAVE Foundation.
Thanks, Representative Stevenson. Thanks, Senator Mann and Tabitha and Bridget for sharing this story time and time again. Bridget's exactly right. Parents who have lost children to fentanyl poisoning, to suicide, have banded together in this country in a way that we have yet to see, and sending a clear message to social media and big tech that they're not going to stay quiet, that they want to see change. I'm the CEO of SAVE, Suicide Awareness Voices of Education, which is a 36-year-old Minnesota-based national nonprofit that focuses on suicide prevention. I'm also here as a member of the Kids Campaign, Keep It Digitally Safe, which is a global campaign contest to raise awareness about the issues of harm to youth on social media and to call for warning labels on social media platforms. We stand in unwavering support of this bill and other warning label legislation that are being introduced all across this country. Social media has become a maelstrom for kids, pulling them into anxiety, depression, and suicide. This is not alarmism. This is reality. We have seen it, we have lived it, and we see it every single day in parents like Bridget and Tabitha and others throughout this country. Where there is smoke, there is fire, and big tech and social media are fanning the flames. For too long, social media companies have insisted that they are protecting kids, but their track record is littered with tragedy. And there is no time any longer to trust but verify. It's now time to regulate and enforce. We don't rely on cigarette companies to police themselves. We don't trust alcohol companies to decide when kids should drink. We shouldn't let the arsonist put out the fire. So why are we still letting social media companies set the rules for protecting our children? This isn't about politics, it's about protecting lives. And the data is undeniable. Warning labels aren't the end-all, be-all solution, but they sure are a powerful step in a be-all solution. Big tobacco, big auto, big oil, and big pharma didn't want to warn people about the dangers of their products or fix them. Ultimately, it was policymakers and parents and the public that demanded action. And now it's time to do the same with big tech. Today, we see sextortion, sex trafficking, bullying, the sale of illegal drugs, stalking, and predatory behavior by adults on minor children using social media platforms all across the world. Social media companies know this. They have done the data, they've done the research, they've done nothing to stop it. We've heard the apologies, they're hollow and they're broken. Want to thank Representative Stevenson and Senator Mann and their co-authors for introducing this important legislation and other leadership that they provided in the area of social media. To parents and advocates and lawmakers, your voice matters. You need to continue to raise your voice and demand action. Here's the reality. Every click has a consequence, and it's time that we label the risk. Thank you.
Happy to take questions at this time. Yeah.
Are there other states that have implemented similar pop-ups or warnings? And if so, what has happened after the implementation?
Yeah, the pop-up idea, I think, is a new idea, but it's not unprecedented in the marketplace. You know, it's kind of mild after if you've ever been watching Netflix and all of a sudden you get the thing saying, are you still watching? And the idea is just to add a little friction to prevent people from being on there for, you know, extended periods of time. It's kind of inspired by some comments that we've had around the area of problem gaming. Like, if you add just a little bit of friction, you can curb the more abusive behavior. So I think that's a more novel concept in Minnesota. As Eric mentioned, the warning labels have been introduced in several states. I'm unaware that any state has enacted them yet.
No, not yet.
But many states have heeded the call of the Surgeon General and proposed legislation. I mean, we shouldn't we should be clear, it's very difficult to pass meaningful regulation of technology companies. These are very powerful lobbies that have a lot of resources that they use to block meaningful regulations. So it's not an easy thing to do.
And if I could add something, so Representative Stevenson talks about the friction of a pop-up, right? And that kind of interruption of that addictive feature and activity. You can use that idea of interruption and friction in the real world too, right? When we look at things like physical barriers on tall public structures or pop-ups on social media, the goal here is to interrupt an addictive activity, right? With a physical barrier, it's about interrupting suicidal impulsivity. These pop-ups and timers have the same practical effect, is that they come in and they provide that intervention. Sometimes all you need is somebody to log off a social media platform for 5 or 10 minutes and kind of get their bearings back. So this is not a small addition to this legislation, which is this pop-up timer feature.
Worth saying that another significant friction point is the Senator Mann's bill to ban cell phones in schools, which I'm really proud to support and will be introducing in the House, I think, tomorrow. No reason why any kid should be looking at their cell phone when they're supposed to be learning math or English. And that's, as someone who's married to a teacher, that is constantly what is happening. So we need to get the cell phones out of schools, and that is another opportunity to disrupt social media, excessive social media consumption.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.